You've been living a lie about success. Not the kind of lie someone told you, but the lie that reality itself has been whispering since the day you were born. It's the lie that says you can only be one thing at a time, that you must choose between being successful in your career or your relationships, that you're either winning or losing, progressing or stagnating. This binary prison has trapped billions of minds in mediocrity, forcing them to believe they must sacrifice one dream to achieve another. But what if I told you that at the deepest level of reality, this either-or existence is an illusion? What if the very fabric of the universe operates on a completely different principle, one where multiple states can exist simultaneously until the moment you choose to observe just one? This isn't mystical thinking or wishful fantasy. This is quantum physics, and it's about to revolutionize how you approach every aspect of your life. Right now, as you read these words, subatomic particles throughout your body exist in what scientists call superposition, occupying multiple states at once until observed. An electron doesn't orbit a nucleus in a single path, but exists as a cloud of probability, simultaneously traveling every possible route until measurement forces it to choose one reality. This fundamental property of matter isn't just happening in laboratories or textbooks. It's happening inside you, around you, through you, every single moment. The problem isn't that you lack ambition, skills, or opportunities. The problem is that you've been conditioned to collapse your infinite possibilities into singular, limiting choices before you need to. You've been measuring your life too early, too often, and in the wrong ways. Every time you tell yourself, I can't have both, every time you believe I must choose, every time you collapse your dreams into the narrow confines of conventional thinking, you're violating the very principles that govern reality itself. Consider this moment as the beginning of a profound shift in your existence. What you're about to discover will feel simultaneously foreign and familiar, challenging and natural, impossible and inevitable. You'll learn to think like the universe itself thinks, to exist like quantum particles exist, to succeed like reality actually works, rather than how you've been told it works. You'll discover that the greatest achievers throughout history didn't succeed despite the laws of physics, but because they intuitively understood and applied quantum principles to their human experience. This isn't about adding another success strategy to your toolkit. This is about fundamentally rewiring your relationship with possibility itself. By the end of this journey, you won't just have goals. You'll have probability clouds of success. You won't just make decisions. You'll orchestrate quantum measurements. You won't just live one life. You'll exist in multiple success states simultaneously, collapsing them into reality with the precision and power of conscious observation. Welcome to Quantum Living. Reality has been waiting for you to remember how it actually works. Your mind is a quantum computer running classical software, and that mismatch is the source of most human limitation. Every thought you think operates through the same fundamental forces that govern atomic behavior, yet you've been taught to think in ways that violate these natural laws. The result is a constant internal friction between how reality wants to unfold and how you've been programmed to expect it should unfold. Classical thinking, the kind that dominates human consciousness, insists that things must be either this or that, here or there, possible or impossible. It demands that you choose a career path and stick to it, that you focus on one goal at a time, that you be realistic about what you can achieve. This binary framework seems logical on the surface, but it's actually working against the fundamental nature of existence itself. Every atom in your body, every photon of light reaching your eyes, every electrical impulse in your brain operates according to quantum principles that allow for multiple states to coexist simultaneously. When you think quantumly, you don't eliminate possibilities by choosing between them. Instead, you hold multiple potential realities in superposition, allowing each to develop its own probability amplitude while keeping all paths active until the optimal moment for manifestation arrives. This isn't about being indecisive or scattered. It's about recognizing that the universe itself maintains infinite possibilities until the moment of observation or measurement collapses the wave function into a specific outcome. The shift begins with understanding that every limitation you've accepted as real is actually just a premature collapse of your quantum possibilities. When you say, "I can't afford that," you're measuring your financial wave function and collapsing it into a single, limited state. When you declare, "I'm not good at relationships," you're observing your social capabilities through a lens that forces them into a specific, constrained form. These measurements aren't neutral observations of reality. They're active forces that create the very limitations they claim to describe. Quantum thinking recognizes that before measurement, you exist in a superposition of being both capable and incapable, both wealthy and poor, both successful and unsuccessful. This isn't contradiction. It's the natural state of unmeasured potential. The question isn't whether you have the ability to succeed, but rather when and how you'll observe that ability into concrete manifestation. Your brain is designed to process quantum information, but it's been trained to collapse possibilities too quickly and too automatically. Every time you encounter a new opportunity, your mind immediately begins measuring it against past experiences, current circumstances, and projected limitations. These rapid measurements force your infinite potential into finite, often disappointing outcomes before you've given quantum principles time to work their magic. Learning to think quantumly means developing comfort with uncertainty, not because you're avoiding decisions, but because you understand that maintaining superposition gives you access to solutions and opportunities that don't exist in the collapsed, classical world. When you hold multiple career paths in superposition, synchronicities begin connecting them in ways that create opportunities unavailable to someone committed to just one path. When you maintain superposition around financial abundance, resources begin flowing from directions you never would have considered. If you had collapsed your possibilities too early, the quantum mind doesn't suffer from the anxiety that plagues classical thinking because it knows that every possible outcome is already present and available. Fear arises from believing you might choose wrong, but quantum consciousness understands that all choices exist simultaneously until you consciously collapse them into experience. This removes the pressure of perfect decision-making and replaces it with the joy of conscious observation. This foundational shift in thinking creates a cascade of changes throughout your entire experience of life. Problems that seemed unsolvable from a binary perspective reveal elegant solutions when approached quantumly. Relationships that appeared doomed under classical analysis transform when both parties learn to exist in superposition with each other. Goals that felt mutually exclusive suddenly begin supporting and amplifying one another when held in quantum suspension. As you begin practicing quantum thinking, you'll notice that your intuition becomes dramatically more accurate, not because you're developing mystical powers, but because you're finally accessing the quantum information processing capabilities that your consciousness was designed to use. You'll start sensing probability patterns, feeling the resonance between different potential futures, and knowing instinctively when to maintain superposition and when to collapse possibilities into reality. This is where your transformation begins, with the simple but profound recognition that the binary world you've been living in is a limited subset of a much larger quantum reality that's been available to you all along. Every great breakthrough, every moment of genius, every instance of seemingly impossible success has occurred when someone temporarily transcended binary thinking and accessed the quantum realm of infinite possibility. Now it's your turn to make that transcendence permanent. The most startling discovery in quantum physics isn't about particles or waves or mathematical equations. It's about you. It's about the fact that consciousness isn't just observing reality, it's creating it through the very act of observation. Every time you focus your attention on something, you're not just looking at what exists, you're participating in the fundamental process by which existence itself comes into being. The observer effect reveals that quantum particles exist in a state of pure possibility until conscious observation forces them to choose specific properties. Before you measure an electron's position, it doesn't have a position in the classical sense. It exists as a probability cloud of potential positions, simultaneously occupying all possible locations until your observation collapses this superposition into a single, definite state. This isn't just true for subatomic particles. It's true for the macroscopic reality of your life, your financial situation, your relationships, your career, your health. All exist in quantum superposition until you observe them into specific states through your focused attention and expectation. The quality of your observation determines which aspects of the infinite possibility matrix collapse into your lived experience. When you observe your life through the lens of limitation, lack and struggle, you're not discovering pre-existing conditions. You're creating them through the specific way you're choosing to measure your reality. Most people observe their lives unconsciously, measuring their circumstances through inherited patterns of attention that consistently collapse the same limited outcomes. They look at their bank account and see what's missing, rather than the infinite potential for abundance that exists in superposition. They observe their relationships through the filter of past disappointments, collapsing possibilities for connection into familiar patterns of conflict or distance. They measure their capabilities against societal standards that automatically eliminate most of their quantum potential before it has a chance to manifest. Conscious observation is an entirely different process. It begins with the understanding that whatever you observe is being created through your active observation, not just discovered. This knowledge transforms the quality of your attention from passive witnessing to active participation in reality creation. When you consciously observe your financial situation, you're not just looking at numbers, you're engaging in a quantum measurement that has the power to collapse abundance from the field of infinite possibility. The key to masterful observation lies in understanding the relationship between expectation and manifestation. Your expectations aren't hopes or wishes about the future. They're quantum measuring devices that determine which aspects of superposition collapse into experience. When you expect struggle, your consciousness automatically calibrates to observe and measure the specific frequencies of reality that confirm struggle. When you expect success, your observation apparatus naturally attunes to the probability patterns that generate successful outcomes. Learning to observe quantumly means developing awareness of your measuring process itself. Instead of unconsciously collapsing possibilities through habitual patterns of attention, you begin choosing consciously what to measure and how to measure it. You realize that every moment of focused attention is an opportunity to participate in the creation of reality rather than the mere discovery of pre-existing conditions. This creates a profound shift in how you approach challenges and opportunities. Problems are no longer fixed conditions to be solved, but superpositions to be observed into resolution. Goals aren't distant targets to be achieved, but probability waves to be collapsed through proper measurement. Relationships become quantum entanglements, where conscious observation by one party instantly affects the possibilities available to the other. The practical application of conscious observation requires developing new habits of attention. Instead of automatically focusing on what's wrong, missing, or problematic, you train your consciousness to observe the aspects of your life that exist in positive superposition. This isn't positive thinking or denial of current circumstances, it's quantum measurement strategy. You're choosing to collapse the aspects of reality that support your growth and success while allowing limiting conditions to remain in superposition, where they have less power to affect your experience. Your consciousness is constantly scanning your environment for information to measure and collapse into reality. The question is whether this measurement process is happening automatically through unconscious programming or deliberately through conscious choice. Most people spend their entire lives as unconscious measuring devices, automatically collapsing the same patterns over and over again without realizing they have the power to change what they're measuring and how they're measuring it. As you develop mastery over your observation process, you begin to notice that reality becomes increasingly responsive to your conscious intent. Opportunities appear precisely when and where you observe for them. Resources manifest in direct proportion to your conscious measurement of abundance. Relationships transform as you learn to observe others through the lens of their highest potential rather than their current limitations. The observer effect isn't a theory about quantum mechanics. It's a revelation about the nature of consciousness itself. You are not separate from the reality you observe. You are an integral part of the measurement apparatus through which infinite possibility becomes finite experience. Every moment of attention is a moment of creation. Every act of observation is an act of manifestation. Every choice of focus is a choice of what reality becomes. This understanding transforms your relationship with life from victimhood to creatorship, from passenger to pilot, from effect to cause. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances beyond your control, because you understand that circumstances are quantum measurements that you can learn to influence through conscious observation. This is the foundation of quantum living, the recognition that consciousness and reality are not separate phenomena but different aspects of a single, unified process of cosmic measurement and manifestation. Your life isn't a single linear path from where you are to where you want to be. It's a complex interference pattern created by multiple probability waves, each representing a different potential future, all existing simultaneously in the quantum field of pure possibility. These waves aren't theoretical constructs. They're real energetic patterns that you can learn to sense, influence, and consciously amplify or diminish based on the outcomes you want to experience. Every goal you've ever set, every dream you've ever imagined, every possibility you've ever considered exists right now as a probability wave with its own unique frequency and amplitude. The strength of each wave determines how likely that particular future is to collapse into your lived reality when the moment of manifestation arrives. Most people unknowingly weaken the waves of their desired futures while strengthening the waves of outcomes they want to avoid, creating a quantum interference pattern that consistently manifests limitation and disappointment. Understanding probability waves begins with recognizing that your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions are not just internal experiences. They're frequency generators that directly influence the amplitude of different potential futures. When you think about your goals with excitement and certainty, you're adding energy to those probability waves, increasing their likelihood of manifestation. When you worry about failure or focus on obstacles, you're amplifying the probability waves of the very outcomes you're trying to avoid. The quantum field doesn't distinguish between wanted and unwanted outcomes. It simply responds to the frequency and intensity of your attention. This is why traditional goal setting often backfires at the quantum level. When you set a goal from a place of lack or need, you're simultaneously energizing both the wave of having what you want and the wave of not having it. These opposing waves create destructive interference, canceling each other out and leaving you stuck in the same patterns you were trying to escape. Quantum success mapping involves learning to visualize and work with your probability landscape consciously. Instead of focusing on single outcomes, you develop awareness of the entire spectrum of possibilities that exist around any given area of your life. You begin to sense which waves are strong and which are weak, which futures are naturally flowing toward manifestation, and which are being held back by limiting beliefs or conflicting intentions. The process starts with expanding your concept of what's possible. Most people's probability maps are severely limited by their past experience and current circumstances. They can only imagine futures that seem logical extensions of their present reality, which keeps their strongest probability waves confined to minor variations of what they already know. Quantum mapping requires you to stretch beyond the boundaries of conventional possibility and acknowledge that the most extraordinary outcomes often arise from waves that seem impossible from a classical perspective. As you begin working with probability waves consciously, you'll discover that certain combinations of potential futures actually strengthen each other through constructive interference. When you hold multiple complementary goals in superposition, their probability waves can align and amplify each other, creating outcomes that are greater than the sum of their individual parts. This is why quantum thinkers often achieve success in multiple areas simultaneously, while classical thinkers struggle to make progress in even one area. The art of wave amplification involves more than just positive thinking or visualization. It requires developing resonance between your consciousness and the frequency of your desired outcomes. This resonance is created through a combination of mental focus, emotional alignment, and inspired action that matches the vibrational signature of the probability wave you want to strengthen. When you achieve true resonance, you'll feel the wave beginning to intensify, and synchronicities will start appearing that confirm you're on the right frequency. Equally important is learning to recognize and diminish the waves of unwanted outcomes without giving them additional energy through resistance or worry. This requires a delicate balance of awareness without attachment, acknowledgement without amplification. You need to see the limiting probability waves clearly enough to work with them, but not focus on them so intensely that you accidentally strengthen them. The quantum field is constantly updating your probability landscape based on your moment-to-moment choices of attention, emotion, and action. Every decision you make, every thought you think, every feeling you feel is like dropping a stone into the quantum pond, creating ripples that affect the entire interference pattern of your potential futures. This means you have constant opportunities to reshape your probability map. Regardless of what it looked like in the past, advanced practitioners learn to work with probability waves at multiple timescales simultaneously. They maintain awareness of immediate possibilities while also influencing longer-term potential futures, creating a coherent wave pattern that supports both short-term progress and long-term transformation. They understand that today's actions are creating tomorrow's possibilities, while tomorrow's potential futures are influencing today's opportunities through quantum entanglement across time. The most sophisticated aspect of probability wave work involves learning to collapse multiple positive waves simultaneously rather than focusing on single outcomes. Instead of trying to manifest one specific goal, you create conditions that allow several complementary futures to emerge at once, leading to compound success that exceeds anything you could have planned or imagined from a classical perspective. As you develop mastery over your probability landscape, you begin to live with a sense of infinite potential that doesn't depend on current circumstances. You know that no matter what appears to be happening in your external reality, the quantum field contains unlimited possibilities for transformation, growth, and success. This knowledge gives you access to a level of confidence and creativity that's impossible from a classical mindset. Because you're no longer trying to force specific outcomes, you're consciously participating in the quantum process through which all outcomes emerge from the field of pure possibility. The most revolutionary discovery in quantum physics isn't about individual particles, it's about the instantaneous connections that exist between particles regardless of the distance separating them. When two particles become entangled, measuring one immediately affects the state of the other, even if they're on opposite sides of the universe. This phenomenon, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance, isn't just happening in physics laboratories. It's the organizing principle behind how different areas of your life influence and support each other in ways that transcend conventional understanding. Career success is quantum entangled with your relationship satisfaction. Your financial abundance is instantaneously connected to your health and vitality. Your personal growth directly affects every other aspect of your life through invisible threads of quantum correlation that operate faster than light and beyond the reach of classical causation. Most people try to improve their lives one area at a time, not realizing that this approach violates the fundamental interconnectedness through which real transformation occurs. Quantum entanglement in human experience means that progress in any area of your life immediately creates supportive changes in every other area, but only if you understand and work with these connections consciously. When you improve your physical health with quantum awareness, you're not just affecting your body, you're instantly upgrading your entire life matrix. The confidence, energy, and vitality you develop through health improvements become available to your career, relationships, and financial goals through the entangled nature of your success ecosystem. The key to leveraging quantum entanglement lies in recognizing that your life isn't composed of separate, independent areas that you need to balance or manage individually. Instead, it's a unified quantum system where every element is instantaneously correlated with every other element. When you make a breakthrough in one area with full quantum awareness, the breakthrough energy immediately spreads throughout your entire life pattern, creating opportunities and improvements that seem miraculous from a classical perspective. This understanding transforms how you approach goal setting and personal development. Instead of dividing your attention between different objectives, you learn to identify the leverage points where focused improvement in one area will create maximum positive entanglement effects throughout your entire life system. Sometimes a single breakthrough in self-confidence becomes entangled with dramatic improvements in career success, relationship satisfaction, and financial abundance simultaneously. The process of creating conscious entanglement begins with developing awareness of the correlation patterns that already exist in your life. Pay attention to how changes in one area seem to coincidentally coincide with changes in other areas. Notice how your mood affects your productivity, how your relationships influence your creativity, how your financial stress impacts your physical health. These aren't separate phenomena happening independently. They're manifestations of the quantum entanglement that connects every aspect of your existence. Once you recognize these natural entanglement patterns, you can begin working with them intentionally. Instead of trying to force improvements in multiple areas simultaneously, you focus intensely on creating breakthroughs in the areas that have the strongest entanglement connections to everything else you want to improve. This might mean dedicating yourself completely to personal growth work, knowing that the insights and transformations you achieve will automatically entangle with improvements in your career and relationships. The phenomenon works both ways, which means that limitations and problems in one area of your life can also become entangled with difficulties in other areas, creating compound challenges that seem overwhelming from a classical perspective. Understanding quantum entanglement helps you realize that you don't need to solve every problem individually. By creating a significant breakthrough in one key area, you can dissolve multiple challenges simultaneously through the positive entanglement effects that spread throughout your life. System advanced practitioners learn to create what could be called entanglement cascades, where a single focused breakthrough triggers a chain reaction of improvements that continues expanding throughout their entire life for months or even years. They achieve this by choosing their breakthrough area based not on what seems most urgent or problematic, but on what has the strongest quantum correlation with the largest number of other areas they want to improve. The timing of entanglement effects can be instantaneous or delayed, depending on factors that aren't always obvious from a classical perspective. Sometimes career breakthroughs immediately reflect in improved relationships and financial flow. Other times, the entanglement effects build up over time before manifesting in sudden, dramatic improvements that seem to come from nowhere. Learning to trust the process of quantum entanglement means continuing to work with focused intensity in your chosen leverage area, even when the broader effects aren't immediately apparent. One of the most powerful applications of entanglement principles involves creating what quantum physicists call non-local correlations between your current state and your desired future state. By achieving deep resonance with your ideal life in one specific area, you create quantum entanglement between your present reality and that future possibility. This entanglement then begins pulling your entire life pattern toward alignment with that ideal, creating changes and opportunities that seem to arise from outside your direct sphere of influence. The ultimate expression of quantum entanglement in human experience is the realization that your individual success is inseparably connected to the success and well-being of everyone and everything around you. As you achieve genuine breakthroughs in your own life, you automatically become entangled with opportunities to contribute to others' success. This creates a positive feedback loop where helping others achieve their breakthroughs becomes entangled with further expansion of your own success, leading to exponential growth that benefits everyone in your quantum network. Working with entanglement principles requires a fundamental shift from scarcity-based thinking to abundance-based quantum awareness. You stop trying to hoard success in individual areas and start creating success ecosystems where every improvement supports and amplifies every other improvement. This approach leads to compound growth that accelerates over time as the entanglement effects build upon each other to create momentum that eventually becomes self-sustaining and continuously expanding. The most delicate skill in quantum living is knowing when to maintain superposition and when to collapse possibilities into concrete reality. This timing, which quantum physicists call the measurement problem, is the difference between accessing infinite potential and getting trapped in limited outcomes. Measure too early and you collapse extraordinary possibilities into ordinary results. Wait too long and you remain stuck in potential without ever experiencing manifestation. Mastering this balance is what separates quantum practitioners from those who understand the theory but can't apply it practically. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in superposition until observation forces them to choose specific properties. The act of measurement isn't neutral, it's a creative force that determines which aspect of infinite possibility becomes real. In your life, every decision, every commitment, every focused action is a form of quantum measurement that collapses some possibilities while keeping others in superposition. The art lies in measuring strategically, collapsing only what serves your highest evolution while maintaining superposition around everything else. Most people measure their lives constantly and unconsciously, collapsing possibilities through habitual patterns of decision-making that limit their access to quantum potential. They choose careers too early, commit to relationships before exploring their full range of compatibility, and make financial decisions based on current circumstances rather than quantum possibilities. These premature measurements lock them into classical reality, where success requires struggle and transformation happens slowly through linear effort. Conscious measurement requires developing what could be called quantum intuition, the ability to sense when possibilities are ripe for collapse and when they need more time to develop in superposition. This intuition operates beyond logical analysis, drawing on information from the quantum field that isn't accessible to classical reasoning. When possibilities are ready for measurement, you'll feel a natural pull toward decision and action. When they need more time in superposition, you'll sense resistance or uncertainty that signals the need for patience. The process begins with learning to distinguish between anxiety-driven urgency and quantum readiness. Anxiety pushes you to measure prematurely, trying to collapse possibilities into security rather than optimal outcomes. Quantum readiness feels different, like a gentle but clear invitation to step forward into manifestation. This readiness often comes with increased synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, and a sense of flow that indicates the quantum field is organizing to support your measurement. Strategic measurement also involves understanding the hierarchy of your possibilities. The measurements are foundational, affecting the entire structure of your reality, while others are surface-level adjustments that don't significantly impact your quantum potential. Learning to identify and prioritize these different levels helps you avoid collapsing minor possibilities at the expense of major transformational opportunities that need more time to develop. The most sophisticated aspect of measurement timing involves what could be called cascade management. When you collapse one significant possibility, it triggers a cascade of related measurements throughout your quantum system. Understanding these cascade patterns helps you time your measurements to create maximum positive impact across all areas of your life. Sometimes waiting for the right moment to make one key decision results in multiple areas of your life transforming simultaneously. There are also moments when maintaining superposition becomes counterproductive, when the quantum field is essentially waiting for you to make a measurement so that the next level of possibilities can emerge. These moments often feel like creative tension or productive discomfort, as if reality itself is ready to shift but needs your conscious choice to trigger the transformation. Learning to recognize and respond to these quantum invitations prevents stagnation and keeps your evolution moving forward. Advanced practitioners develop the ability to make what could be called partial measurements, collapsing some aspects of a possibility while keeping others in superposition. This allows them to take concrete action without losing access to the full range of potential outcomes. For example, they might commit to exploring a business opportunity while maintaining superposition around exactly how that exploration will unfold, or enter a relationship while keeping possibilities open around its ultimate direction and form. The quantum field also provides feedback about your measurement choices through the quality of results you experience. When you measure at optimal moments with proper awareness, the outcomes exceed your expectations and create platforms for even greater possibilities. When you measure prematurely or unconsciously, the results feel forced and limited, lacking the effortless expansion that characterizes quantum manifestation. This feedback helps you calibrate your measurement timing for future decisions. One of the most powerful measurement strategies involves creating what could be called measurement experiments, where you test the readiness of possibilities through small, reversible actions before making major commitments. These experiments allow you to gather quantum information about how different potential futures respond to your attention and energy, helping you identify which possibilities are most ripe for full manifestation. The ultimate goal isn't to eliminate measurement, but to become conscious and strategic about when and how you collapse possibilities. You want to live in a dynamic balance between superposition and manifestation, constantly expanding your potential while regularly experiencing concrete results. This creates a spiral of growth where each measurement opens new possibilities that exceed what was available before, leading to exponential rather than linear evolution. Learning to navigate the measurement problem transforms your relationship with decision-making from stress to art. Instead of fearing that you might choose wrong, you understand that every conscious measurement is an experiment in reality creation that provides valuable information for future choices. This perspective allows you to make decisions with confidence while maintaining the flexibility to adjust course as new possibilities emerge from the quantum field. The mastery of measurement timing ultimately comes down to developing trust in your quantum intuition while remaining responsive to the feedback that reality provides about your choices. This creates a collaborative relationship between your consciousness and the quantum field, where measurement becomes a dance of co-creation rather than a series of isolated decisions that you must make perfectly on your own. In the quantum world, particles routinely achieve the impossible. They pass through barriers that should completely block their movement, appearing on the other side without any classical explanation for how they got there. This phenomenon, called quantum tunneling, isn't just a curious property of subatomic particles. It's a fundamental mechanism through which consciousness can bypass limitations that appear insurmountable from a classical perspective. Understanding and applying quantum tunneling principles allows you to achieve outcomes that seem to violate the normal rules of cause and effect. Classical thinking approaches obstacles as solid barriers that must be overcome through force, persistence, or clever strategy. It assumes that every limitation has a classical solution, even if that solution requires enormous effort or perfect conditions. Quantum consciousness recognizes that many apparent obstacles are actually probability barriers that can be bypassed entirely when you align with the tunneling frequency that allows passage through rather than over or around them. The key to quantum tunneling lies in understanding that what appears solid and impermeable from one perspective becomes permeable when approached from a different dimensional angle. Limitations exist as probability walls that maintain their solidity only as long as you approach them with classical energy and expectation. When you shift into quantum coherence and approach the same barrier with the frequency signature that matches its tunneling resonance, you can pass through it as if it weren't there. This process begins with recognizing that every obstacle in your life contains within it the information necessary for its own bypass. The limitation isn't separate from the solution. It's actually the solution in disguise, waiting for you to discover the quantum frequency that transforms it from barrier to doorway. Financial limitations contain the tunneling codes for abundance. Relationship obstacles hold the keys to deeper connection, and career barriers are actually quantum gateways to expanded professional possibility. Quantum tunneling requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to challenges. Instead of pushing against them or trying to find ways around them, you learn to phase match with their quantum signature until you achieve resonance. This resonance creates a temporary state where the normal rules of classical reality don't apply, allowing you to pass through limitations that would otherwise require enormous effort or perfect circumstances to overcome. The tunneling process isn't about denying the reality of obstacles or pretending they don't exist. It's about recognizing that what appears solid in three-dimensional space becomes navigable when you access higher dimensional perspectives and capabilities. Every limitation exists within a larger context of possibility, and quantum tunneling allows you to step into that larger context, temporarily to bypass constraints that only exist at the limited dimensional level where you originally encountered them. Learning to tunnel quantumly involves developing sensitivity to the frequency patterns that surround apparent obstacles. These patterns contain information about alternative pathways that exist in quantum superposition around every blocked route. When you attune to these alternative frequencies, you begin to sense opportunities and solutions that weren't visible from your original approach angle. The tunneling pathway often appears as an unexpected opening that seems to arise from nowhere but was actually always present in the quantum field. The practical application of tunneling principles requires a combination of laser-focused intent and complete detachment from specific outcomes. You must maintain absolute clarity about your desired destination while remaining completely flexible about the route through which you'll arrive there. This paradoxical state creates the quantum coherence necessary for tunneling to occur, allowing you to bypass obstacles while staying aligned with your ultimate objectives. One of the most powerful aspects of quantum tunneling is its ability to transcend time-based limitations. Classical approaches to obstacles assume that certain changes require specific amounts of time to occur naturally. Quantum tunneling can collapse time requirements by accessing probability pathways where the desired outcome already exists in a more advanced state. This allows for breakthrough moments where years of expected progress happen instantly, not through acceleration but through dimensional bypass, advanced. Tunneling practitioners learn to identify what could be called tunneling windows, specific moments when the quantum field around an obstacle becomes temporarily permeable to consciousness operating at the right frequency. These windows often coincide with periods of increased synchronicity, unusual opportunities, or unexpected insights that seem to come from outside normal probability patterns. Recognizing and utilizing these windows can lead to effortless breakthroughs that would be impossible at other times. The phenomenon also works with collective obstacles and social limitations. When groups of people achieve quantum coherence around shared intentions, they can tunnel through cultural barriers, economic limitations, and social constraints that seem impossible to overcome through classical means. This creates the possibility for revolutionary changes that happen much faster and with less resistance than traditional change models would predict. Understanding quantum tunneling also reveals why some approaches to problems work effortlessly while others require enormous struggle. When you're approaching an obstacle from the wrong frequency angle, even small barriers can feel insurmountable. When you discover the tunneling resonance for the same obstacle, it dissolves almost instantly, allowing you to wonder why you ever thought it was a problem in the first place. The ultimate expression of quantum tunneling involves developing the ability to bypass the entire structure of limitation itself, rather than just individual obstacles. This happens when you achieve such complete alignment with your quantum nature that limitations lose their power to constrain your reality altogether. You begin operating from a level of consciousness where obstacles simply don't form in the first place, because you're existing in harmony with the fundamental forces through which all possibilities emerge. Mastering quantum tunneling transforms your relationship with challenge from struggle to curiosity. Instead of dreading obstacles, you begin to see them as opportunities to develop and demonstrate your quantum capabilities. Each limitation becomes an invitation to discover new aspects of your consciousness and new pathways through the infinite possibility matrix that surrounds all apparent barriers. After journeying through the fundamental principles of quantum consciousness, you stand at the threshold of integration, where understanding transforms into living reality. The quantum life isn't something you achieve once and then maintain. It's an ongoing dance of consciousness that deepens with each moment of practice, each decision made from quantum awareness, each breakthrough that expands your capacity to exist in multiple success states simultaneously. Living quantumly means structuring your entire existence around principles that honor the superposition nature of reality. This begins with your daily routines, which become opportunities to practice maintaining multiple potential states rather than collapsing into single, limiting patterns. Your morning ritual isn't just about preparation for the day. It's about establishing quantum coherence that allows you to exist in superposition with all the possibilities that day contains. Your evening reflection isn't just about reviewing what happened. It's about consciously choosing which probability waves to amplify for tomorrow's manifestation. The quantum lifestyle requires developing what could be called coherent flexibility, the ability to maintain focused intention while remaining completely open to unexpected manifestations of that intention. This paradoxical state becomes natural as you practice, creating a way of being that's simultaneously directed and surrendered, purposeful and allowing. You learn to hold your goals lightly while pursuing them intensely, to plan strategically while staying responsive to quantum opportunities that exceed your plans. Advanced quantum living involves creating what might be termed success ecosystems, where every element of your life supports and amplifies every other element through conscious entanglement design. Your living space becomes arranged to reinforce quantum states of consciousness. Your relationships become practice grounds for mutual superposition and conscious observation. Your work transforms into a platform for expressing and developing your quantum capabilities while contributing to others' evolution. Everything becomes integrated into a coherent system that generates compound growth across all dimensions. Simultaneously, the most sophisticated aspect of quantum living involves learning to maintain what could be called perpetual superposition, a state where you remain simultaneously aligned with multiple potential futures without losing the ability to collapse specific outcomes when optimal timing arrives. This isn't about being indecisive or scattered. It's about developing the consciousness capacity to hold vast possibility matrices while still taking concrete action in the physical world. You become someone who lives in multiple dimensions simultaneously, accessing resources and opportunities from probability streams that others can't even perceive. This perpetual superposition creates a unique form of success that transcends traditional achievement models. Instead of reaching goals through linear progression, you begin experiencing what could be called quantum leaps, where multiple objectives manifest simultaneously through the constructive interference of properly aligned probability waves. Your success becomes exponential rather than additive, with each breakthrough creating platforms for achievements that wouldn't have been possible through classical approaches. The development of quantum habits becomes essential at this stage. These aren't ordinary routines, but consciousness practices that maintain your access to superposition states throughout daily life. You might develop the habit of checking your probability landscape each morning, sensing which potential futures are strengthening and which are weakening based on your recent choices and energy patterns. You might create evening practices for consciously collapsing the day's experiences while setting up tomorrow's quantum field for optimal manifestation. Quantum relationships become another crucial element of advanced practice. As you develop mastery over your own superposition states, you naturally begin attracting and connecting with others who are also operating from quantum consciousness. These relationships create what could be called entanglement networks, where the quantum growth of each person amplifies and accelerates the quantum development of everyone else in the network. Success becomes collective rather than individual, with breakthrough achievements in one person's life creating cascade effects of opportunity and expansion throughout the entire quantum community. The ultimate expression of quantum living involves transcending the need to choose between spiritual development and material success, between personal fulfillment and contribution to others, between present enjoyment and future security. All of these apparent opposites reveal themselves as complementary aspects of a unified quantum reality, where true success includes and transcends all limitations. You discover that the highest levels of consciousness naturally generate the most practical results, while the most effective actions naturally arise from the deepest spiritual understanding. At the mastery level, quantum living becomes effortless and natural, not because life becomes easy, but because you develop the capacity to flow with quantum principles rather than working against them. Challenges become opportunities to demonstrate quantum capabilities. Obstacles become invitations to discover new tunneling frequencies. And setbacks become temporary fluctuations in probability patterns that you navigate with the skill of an experienced quantum surfer. This integration creates a life that appears miraculous from the outside but feels natural from within. Synchronicities become so common that you stop being surprised by them and start using them as navigation tools for optimal decision-making. Resources appear exactly when needed, through channels that seem impossible from a classical perspective. Opportunities arise with perfect timing through quantum entanglement effects that you've learned to recognize and amplify. The quantum life ultimately reveals itself as humanity's natural state, the way consciousness was designed to interact with reality before we learned to limit ourselves through classical thinking patterns. As you embody these principles fully, you become a demonstration of what's possible when human consciousness operates in harmony with the fundamental laws of the universe. Your life becomes a beacon that shows others what becomes available when they remember how to exist in multiple success states simultaneously. This is not the end of your quantum journey, but the beginning of its most exciting phase. Having integrated these principles into your daily existence, you now have the foundation for explorations into quantum territories that few have ever mapped. You're ready to discover what becomes possible when a fully coherent quantum consciousness encounters the infinite field of possibility that surrounds all existence. The quantum life awaits, not as a distant goal, but as your next moment of conscious choice to remain in superposition with all that you can become.